in that moment?
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm a consummate insider. I've grown up at Microsoft now 28 years. And I also recognize, to your point, that I was taking over from Steve and Bill. And Steve, even though was not a founder, he had founder status in the company. Bill and Steve built the company. Bill and Paul founded the company. And the one thing that perhaps I was more grounded, having worked with them, is as a non-founder CEO, I needed to make explicit some of the things that I think founder CEOs can take for granted, because founder CEOs can carry, just because of who they are and what they mean to the organization, a lot, and telegraph that very broadly and have followership. Whereas I describe myself as a mere mortal CEO, I felt I needed that sense of purpose to be deeply rekindled, is something that I reinforced. And culture, both sort of these two pillars of sense of purpose and culture, needed to become much more explicit. For example, when I joined Microsoft in '92, we used to talk about our mission as putting a PC in every home and every desk. It was pretty inspiring, right? I mean, you could even do an Excel spreadsheet, P times Q. It was easy to compute. And except by the late 90s, we had more or less achieved that, at least in the developed world. And since then, we had this struggle of what's next. And I felt like I needed to sort of go back, in fact, to the very origin of the company, right? I mean, Microsoft got started when we built, or Paul and Bill built, the basic interpreter for the Altair. And I believe that everything that needs to be known about Microsoft in 2019 can be traced back to our origin, which is we build technology so that others can build more technology, right? I felt like we were doing things out of envy and others. We needed to get back to what our core identity is, right? Especially in 2019, where every company is a software company around the world. We can just basically be a software platform and tools provider and have a good business. And so I felt, let's be proud of who we are. Of course, we got to express it differently. And then, really reinforce that. That's why we talk about our mission around empowering people and organizations. The other piece, though, is we had to work on our culture. I distinctly remember, I guess it was '98 when we first became the largest market cap company in the world. And many of us, who were lucky enough to participate on that wave of growth. But I remember that day when we walked around, you could see in in campus, people thought, wow, we must be God's gifts to mankind. Right? We're so smart, we're so good, look at us. And except that was not the case. I mean, the case was, it's a temporal thing, and it only matters. What matters is your ability to learn, grow, be grounded in the realities, and our customers and what have you. And so that's why I wanted a culture that stood for that learning organization. And in fact, my wife had introduced me to a book by a Stanford professor, Carol Dweck, which I'd read, Mindset, many years before I became CEO. It was a huge influence in our household as it relates to our own children's education. But quite frankly, it was a great education for me, because when I read that book, I realized that notion of growth mindset applies to individuals like me. It applies to companies like Microsoft. So we took that meme of growth mindset and said, look, let's not be know-it-alls, let's be learn-it-alls. And has been a very helpful part of, I would say, our journey around this. What is a cultural meme that we can even make first class, that we can have a real dialogue on?
Absolutely.